In LA's gang scene, there are gangs that draw headlines. And then there are gangs that are not always in the news, but everyone knows not to mess with them, like the Samoans.
Even though we're low in numbers, we don't let nobody push us around.
That means kill his neighborhood. Yeah.
One particular Samoan gangster rapper symbolized that formidable dread that the gang inspires. Paul Ganxsta Ridd DeVoe. He single-handedly terrorized and inspired fear in Suge Knight and Death Row.
I was at Death Row. I threw my lyric book at Suge Knight. I tried to hit him in the head.
Yeah.
They were coming, come here, gangster, gangster, whispering. I was like, what's up? Suge Knight scared of you. Suge Knight scared of you.
A Samoan warrior from Carson, California, he embodied the spirit of the Booyah tribe. But what made Ganxsta Ridd so feared that even Suge Knight, the headline-grabbing, infamous head of Death Row Records, was scared of him? The rise of Booyah tribe. Before the tattoos, before the reality shows, there was Booyah Tribe, a band of brothers from Carson, California, who turned pain into power and funk into fury. Made up of the DeVoe brothers, Paul, Ted, Donald, Danny, David, Roscoe, and Vincent, Booyah Tribe was more than just a group. They were Samoan warriors with a mic. Starting off as breakdancers, they evolved into musicians, merging hardcore rap with heavy metal and funk. Their name? Booyah, the sound of a shotgun blast. Tribe stood for Too Rough International Booyah Empire.
What?
Their 1990 debut album, New Funky Nation, dropped like a bomb. Raw, loud, and apologetic. At a time when hip-hop was still defining itself, Booyah brought live instruments and a new level of aggression. They didn't just break genre lines, they shattered them. From the mosh pits of metal to the heart of hip-hop, Booyah Tribe earned respect across the board. Through tragedy, including the loss of several members, their legacy lives on. Booyah wasn't just music, it was a movement.
Up to yesterday, I can show you on my phone, me and Ganxsta Ridd he's in Australia doing some stuff, and we're about to drop 2 more projects on him.
Yeah.
So Booyah Tribe ain't just gone yet. We lost Godfather, R.I.P. Godfather.
Formed in the late 80s, Booyah Tribe was more than just a hip-hop group. They were a movement. Composed of 7 Samoan brothers from Carson, California, they used funk, metal, and gangsta rap into a sound that was as aggressive as it was unique. They weren't just making music, they were telling their story, their culture, their struggles, their triumphs. Their journey took them to Japan, where they gained international acclaim before returning to the US and signing with Island Records. Their debut album, New Funky Nation, showcased their raw talent and set the stage for their dominance in the West Coast hip-hop scene.
Let's give the people at least, some history.
No problem.
So, originally from Carson?
Yep.
Okay, born and raised with your family?
We was born in Hawthorne, California.
Okay.
Yeah. But raised in, in Carson, you know what I'm saying?
Ganxsta Ridd, the enforcer. Among the brothers, Paul Ganxsta Ridd was the enforcer. With his imposing presence and fierce loyalty to his roots, he became the group's most notorious member. His reputation wasn't just built on music, it was forged in the streets. As a member of the West Side Piru and the Samoan warrior bounty hunters, he carried the weight of his affiliations wherever he went. In the world of hip-hop, some talk tough, others are tough. And then there's Ganxsta Ridd, the enforcer. Ridd wasn't just a rapper, he was a presence, a force, a protector of his family, his music, and his culture. As a founding member of Booyah Tribe, Ganxsta Ridd carried the weight. He wasn't just the muscle, he was the heart. A proud Samoan with deep ties to the streets and the struggle. Ridd's delivery was raw, his presence unforgettable. Whether on stage or in the streets, he embodied the world real. You didn't just hear his bars, you felt them. Ganxsta Ridd passed in 2020, but his legacy? That's forever. A father, a warrior, a voice for the voiceless. The enforcer never needed a spotlight. He was the spotlight whenever he stepped in the room. Rest in power, Ganxsta Ridd. The mic misses you, the culture remembers you.
There's a lot of guys in the ghetto that don't have moms and dads like we did, in the ghetto, and they go and find it from us. They find it from the hood. I'm my homie's I'm his big brother.
The day the lyric book was thrown. In the world of hip-hop, where words are weapons and egos run high, few moments stand out like the day Ganxsta Ridd threw his lyric book at Suge Knight. It was a clash of titans, a moment that would go down in history as one of the most audacious acts of defiance in the rap game. Los Angeles, the birthplace of gangster rap. The 1990s were a time of fierce competition and territorial disputes in the hip-hop scene. At the helm of Death Row Records was Suge Knight, a man whose reputation for intimidation was as legendary as the artists he managed. Meanwhile, in the underground scene, a group known as Booyah Tribe was making waves. Fronted by the charismatic Ganxsta Ridd, they blended Pacific Islander heritage with hardcore rap, creating a unique sound that resonated with many. The tension between the two worlds came to a head at a major hip-hop event. Rumors swirled that Suge Knight had disrespected Booyah Tribe, and Ganxsta Ridd wasn't having it. In a bold move, Ganxsta Ridd approached Suge Knight and without a word, threw his lyric book at him. It was a symbolic gesture, a challenge to the man who had built an empire on fear and dominance. The incident sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. That was a power move. Suge wasn't used to being challenged like that, especially not by someone from the streets. While some saw it as an act of bravery, others viewed it as reckless. Regardless of perspective, one thing was clear. Ganxsta Ridd had stood up to Suge Knight, a feat few dared to attempt. Today, the story of Ganxsta Ridd's defiance serves as a testament to the power of standing up for oneself in the face of adversity. Booyah Tribe's legacy continues, influencing new generations of artists who dare to be different. According to Ridd, it's all about respect. If you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. In the world of hip-hop, respect is earned, not given. And on that day, Ganxsta Ridd earned his.
Yeah, you know, and everyone trips out because I was at Death Row. I threw my lyric book at Suge Knight. I tried to hit him in the head. Yeah. Because I was kind of fucked up. I was off that Hennessy.
Booyah Tribe's gang affiliations. When you talk about Booyah Tribe, you're not just talking about music. You're talking about survival, street life, and redemption. But behind the booming beats and hard-hitting rhymes, there's a deeper story. Before Booyah Tribe became hip-hop legends, the DeVoe brothers were knee-deep in a gang culture of Carson, California. Raised in a tough Samoan American neighborhood, they were affiliated with the West Side Piru set, a part of the larger Bloods gang network. The brothers weren't just affiliated, they lived it. Shootouts, drug deals, and street politics weren't movie scenes to them. It was real life, and it almost tore them apart. After losing close friends and witnessing the cost of gang life firsthand, the DeVoe family made a decision. Music or death. They chose music. Booyah Tribe flipped the script. They took that same energy, the loyalty, the fire, the pain, and poured it into their music. The gang ties weren't glorified, they were real. A part of their story, not their future. What made them special was their ability to rise above it. They earned respect from Bloods, Crips, bikers, and metalheads alike. They weren't bound by colors, they were bound by honor. Booyah's past can't be separated from gang culture, but what they did with it, that's what made them legends. From gang life to global stages, Booyah Tribe didn't just represent the streets, they survived them. Booyah Tribe's ties to gang culture were undeniable. Their music often reflected their experiences with violence, loyalty, and survival in the streets. They weren't just rapping about gang life, they were living it. And that authenticity resonated with fans and instilled fear in their rivals.
Yeah.
They're the first Polynesian rap band.
Yeah, and didn't they do security for Eminem a little bit when M used to come out to the West Coast? Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
That's how that song, Hip Hop is in the State of 911 with Booyah Tribe and Be Real. That's how that song came about because Paul Rosenberg, yeah, he reached out. He was getting extorted by some Crips.
Who Paul Rosenberg was, or
Eminem was getting extorted by some Crips.
Meaning that they're saying you can't come out here unless you pay it.
Suge Knight's fear of Ganxsta Ridd. In the world of West Coast hip-hop, few names strike fear like Suge Knight. Ruthless, intimidating, and in control of one of the most powerful rap empires of the 90s, Death Row Records. But even the most feared man can have someone he won't cross. That man was Ganxsta Ridd, frontman of the Samoan rap group Booyah Tribe. Known for their deep ties to the streets and unmatched presence, the Booyah brothers weren't just rappers, they were real-life enforcers. And Ganxsta Ridd? He was the heartbeat of it all. So how did Suge Knight, a man who bullied some of the biggest names in music, end up respecting, if not fearing, Ganxsta Ridd? Booyah wasn't the type you called for protection. You called them when you wanted to end the problem, and Suge knew better than to mess with that. Legend has it, after the death of Tupac, tensions rose in LA. Suge, fresh out of options and losing allies, approached Booyah for muscle. But this wasn't a business deal, this was survival. Ganxsta Ridd reportedly made it clear, Booyah doesn't work for anyone. Respect was earned and Suge knew that. Whatever deal went down that day, one thing became clear. Suge wouldn't cross Booyah. Not then, not ever. When Ridd passed in 2020, the streets mourned. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a symbol, a man who commanded respect from even the most feared. In a city built on bravado, Ganxsta Ridd was the real deal, and even Suge Knight knew, some lines you just don't cross. Suge Knight, known for his ruthless tactics, reportedly feared Ganxsta Ridd. The Samoan rapper's unpredictability and street credibility made him a formidable adversary. Suge respected power, and Ganxsta Ridd had it in spades.
Other death row artists like Left Eye from TLC and Keisha Cole quietly told Ridd that Suge was actually scared of him.
They were going, "Come here, gangster, gangster," whispering. I was like, what's up? Suge Knight scared of you. Suge Knight scared of you.
The Sons of Samoa and LA gangs. Ganxsta Ridd's influence extended beyond music. As a member of the Sons of Samoa, a Crips-affiliated gang, he was deeply embedded in the gang culture of Long Beach, Los Angeles, the city of dreams, California, opportunity, and sometimes danger. Amidst the glitz of Hollywood lies a lesser-known chapter in the city's gang history, the Sons of Samoa. The Sons of Samoa were one of the first Polynesian gangs to affiliate with the Crips. Their presence was felt throughout Southern California. Formed in the 1970s in the rough neighborhoods of Long Beach and Compton, the Sons of Samoa emerged during a time of rising gang tensions and identity struggles among immigrant youth. As Samoan families settled into LA, their children found themselves caught between cultures and often conflict. These kids were looking for protection, a sense of brotherhood, something that said, "You belong here." The Sons of Samoa became that identity. Like many other street gangs, the Sons of Samoa were shaped by their environment. They clashed with rival gangs, both black and Latino, over territory, respect, and survival. Law enforcement in the 80s and 90s labeled them a serious threat, but their numbers were small compared to the Crips or Bloods. What made them stand out? Ferocity and loyalty. They weren't the biggest, but they had heart. If one of them got jumped, it didn't matter how many there were, they went back. That's what being a son meant. Today, some members have turned the page. With support from churches and community leaders, they've worked to steer the younger generation away from violence and toward pride in their heritage. The Sons of Samoa are a reminder. Every gang has a deeper story. Beneath the headlines lie tales of struggle, survival, and the search for identity in a city that doesn't always embrace outsiders. This is more than gang history. It's a story of a people and the streets they tried to call home.
Samoan, okay. What these big ass? They look black, but they don't. I'm like, nigga. When I go to school over there, I'm like 7th grade. I'm like, what the? These niggas big.
Yeah, for sure,
the whole football team full of them. I'm like, what the fuck? These? So I start doing my research. You feel me? Exactly. Islanders, all of that.
Dissing Snoop Dogg. In the world of West Coast hip-hop, few figures walked with more respect than Ganxsta Ridd of Booyah Tribe, a Samoan street soldier with roots deeper than rap. He wasn't in it for clout, he wasn't chasing fame. Ganxsta Ridd was about principle. On the flip side, you had Snoop Dogg, laid back, charismatic, and one of death row's golden boys. But in the aftermath of Tupac's death and Suge Knight's incarceration, Snoop's loyalty came into question, and not everybody was cool with how he moved. One of those people, Ganxsta Ridd. And when he spoke, it wasn't for attention. It was to call out what was wrong.
Snoop got his own mind. He know what he got to do. You can't choose two lives. You know, we've tried it. I've lost a couple brothers to it. So it's like this. You know, nobody told Snoop to get in the car and do this. You know, but I understand where the brother's coming from.
After leaving death row, Snoop Dogg became a target for disses from former label mates. Ganxsta Ridd didn't hold back, using his platform to voice his disdain. It was a reflection of the loyalty and betrayal that ran deep in the death row camp. According to Ridd, Snoop switched sides when it got hot. One minute he's waving the death row flag, next thing you know, he's standing next to Dre, dissing the same crew he ate with. That ain't gangster, that's politics. Ganxsta Ridd aired it out publicly. Whether it was through underground interviews, lyrics, or just street talk, he made it clear. Real ones don't run when the fire starts. Snoop, on the other hand, never responded directly. Maybe he didn't feel the heat, or maybe he knew better. Because Booyah wasn't just a rap group, they were street certified, and Ganxsta Ridd, he wasn't the type you played with. The diss wasn't about clout, it was about respect, and for Ganxsta Ridd, watching a once loyal soldier flip sides and throw dirt on the same set that put him on, that was enough to speak up. Snoop might have had the fame, but Ridd had the code. And in the streets of LA, that counts for more than any platinum plaque.
Yeah, you know, And everyone trips out because I was at Death Row. I threw my lyric book at Suge Knight. I tried to hit him in the head.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of fucked up. I was off the Hennessy.
Reactions to Ganxsta Ridd's passing. When Ganxsta Ridd passed away in 2020, the hip-hop community mourned the loss of a legend. October 2020, the world of hip-hop lost a real one. Paul DeVoe, better known as Ganxsta Ridd, passed away after a battle with COVID-19. His death sent a shockwave through not just West Coast hip-hop, but the global music community. The Enforcer was gone, and the streets felt it. Artists like Ice-T, Be Real, and members of Cypress Hill took to social media to honor their brother. Rest in peace to my man Ganxsta Ridd, one of the realest. OG Samoan from Carson, much love to the Booyah family. Ridd wasn't just a performer, he was a family to many. A protector, a voice for the voiceless, his legacy extended beyond music into street credibility, loyalty, and cultural pride. Be Real said, he stood for something, he brought realness back into the game, his energy unmatched. According to Cypress Hill, Ridd was the kind of guy who'd walk in a room and everyone knew he was there, not because he was loud, because he was solid. From Carson to Tokyo, fans paid tribute. His music, his story, and his presence touched lives across continents. The man who once walked the line between gang life and stage lights had earned nothing but respect. Ganxsta Ridd is gone, but the warrior spirit he carried, that lives on through the Booyah legacy. Ice-T stated that he was one of the realest to ever do it. Rest in peace, my brother.
Shut! Red!
Booyah Tribe's legacy. Booyah Tribe's impact on hip-hop is undeniable. Their fusion of cultures and unapologetic authenticity paved the way for future generations of artists. Before West Coast hip-hop exploded onto the global stage, there was a group of Samoan brothers who brought a new level of intensity, identity, and raw power to the game. The Booyah Tribe. Formed in the late 80s, they were more than a rap group. They were family, literally. They came up hard. Former gang members who turned to music after a series of life-altering events, they used their lyrics and sound to escape the cycle of violence that surrounded them.
Booyah,
The Booyah Tribe. Man, we keep it gangster.
First time, we met Booyah Tribe was back in like, late 80s.
I don't even think I knew they were in a band. They were just...
Their style, hardcore, heavy, uncompromising, fusing rap with elements of funk, rock, and even metal. Booyah stood out in every way. Their debut album was a statement, bold, aggressive, and unapologetically Samoan. But their impact went beyond music. They were cultural pioneers, putting Polynesian identity on the map in a genre that had rarely seen it. Collaborating with the likes of Ice-T, Cypress Hill, and Body Count, they carved out a unique space in hip-hop's crowded landscape. They broke barriers and showed that hip-hop was a global language. Tragedy wasn't new to Booyah. They lost members over the years, including their leader Paul, known as the Godfather, but through grief, their legacy only grew stronger. They inspired a new generation of Polynesian artists, showing them that there was a space for their stories and their pride. The Booyah Tribe didn't just make music, they made history. Their name, which means brothers organized to obtain years of absolute authority, wasn't just a clever acronym, it was a prophecy. The story of Ganxsta Ridd and Booyah Tribe is a testament to the power of music and culture. From the streets of Carson to the stages of the world, they proved that authenticity and loyalty are the true currencies in the game.